Hi everybody, I am Yogesh Gupta, a security professional from last 18 years, and I'm super excited to start this security transformation series. And this first video is a primer. Uh, in this age of digital transformation, it is absolutely necessary to bring a change in the way we do security. Our security teams or we as a security professionals need to bring in that transformation. So, in this series, you will see various aspects of technology, what is changing, and how we are securing them differently. How networks are virtualized, what are software-defined networks, and how we secure them. And we will also try to find answers to the questions like why identity is called the new perimeter. So let us begin. To start with, this slide represents our mindset in last 10 years when we initially did not agree that the cloud is secure. Then we reached a point in time when we thought, yes, cloud is more secure than our on-prem data centers. But at the same time, it developed a dangerous thought process as well. We started thinking not the security guys, but in general, that everything that we put in the cloud, whether it is our data or it is applications, is secure by default. But this is not true. There are numerous examples of attacks or data breaches happening in the cloud ecosystem, whether it is S3 buckets not encrypted and exposed to the internet, or even cloud VMs missing patches. And therefore, it is not surprising to see that most of the times when we look at any cloud breach, it is cloud customers' fault. And by 2022, what Gartner says is that 95% of cloud security failures will be because of cloud customers' fault. And down there, you can see that we have the same old contributors to the breaches, whether it is misconfiguration or missing patches or even credentials. And this brings in a very important observation that although cloud is more secure than on-premise data center, but they are not secure by default. So let us see what is missing. Legacy, the word legacy, perhaps the biggest blocker in the security transformation. And I'm not talking about the legacy applications or the legacy systems that are running maybe like over 50 years. I'm talking about the security mindset. I'm talking about how we do security. I'm talking about the way we have been doing security from last 20 years. And one of the examples could be control. Like as a security community, we are so control freak. Our mindset is that we should control every piece of IT infrastructure and we do not trust our vendors. And therefore, we do not trust cloud service providers as well. But do you guys know that organizations are losing the opportunity of using public cloud services? We are losing that opportunity just because of our unwarranted fears of being a public cloud service being less secure. And we end up spending so much time looking at the security posture of the cloud service provider that we do not give enough attention to, building our own security controls. All the time we are looking at the SOC 2 report or we are looking at the PCI DSS compliance of the service provider, but we basically we verify the reports, but we do not trust the service provider. And so another piece is our legacy security solutions that I want to talk about. It is a fact that the traditional security solutions do not translate well in the digital and the cloud environment. And I'll give you an example here. Okay, let's see. We all have network firewall at the perimeter. whether it is a checkpoint or a Palo Alto or a Cisco, whatever. And we take the same solution to the cloud as well. It may be because of the skill set that currently we have and we want to utilize that. And it is good to have a checkpoint or a Palo Alto at the edge of the cloud as well. But at the end of the day, it runs on a virtual machine. If you are putting a checkpoint or a Palo Alto on a public cloud, it will always run on a virtual machine. And that virtual machine has its own limitations. So it's it's okay to take checkpoint to the fire to the cloud, but we are missing the real advantage of that the cloud gives us. Maybe we can just go for another solution by the cloud service provider, for example, Azure Firewall. But we are really missing the advantage which cloud gives us here. And even the security vendors, I will not name any, but even the security vendors have been late in catching the bus to cloud computing. And therefore, you will see a lot of cloud offerings by the security vendors are just a virtualized form of their traditional solution or what solution they have been giving on the for the on-prem. So this legacy mindset and approach needs to be changed because almost every business out there is in a process of digital transformation. Technologies of different shapes and sizes is changing the IT landscape, how we run our IT in our organizations. And whether it is the adoption of SaaS services or digitalization through DevOps or even cloud migration. And it is the speed at which this transformation is happening. So if we as a security community, or rather I will say we as a security team do not change our traditional way of like, saying stop, no, we will check this, it will take time to approve. I mean, these sort of things may create frictions. And business and IT may become reluctant in taking us into consideration. And even we may be left out of cloud adoption decisions. So, best way going forward is to become a business enabler and support IT initiatives and get innovative about how we manage risk. Because remember, the primary role of security team is to manage risk. That's the primary role we have, whether we are doing SOC or we are doing cybersecurity. At the end of the day, the goal is to manage risk. So let us see what else we do. So as a security team, we perform independent functions that are not found elsewhere in the organization. That's how I can put it. Like, for example, security governance, security operations, vulnerability management are some of the examples. And we also work as a subject matter experts and advisors to the business and the other teams. And I would like to put this as advisors to the other teams because remember, business and the teams are the ones who are actually responsible for the risk that their systems carry. So, but that role of an advisor is the role which is changing in the new age of digital transformation. And besides being a subject matter experts, we need to become a partner. We need to become an enabler in their business initiatives, like helping in developing secure applications, becoming a security SME in the DevOps world, and how they operate their systems in the cloud environment. And that is what I meant when I said, like, we need to come out of the traditional mindset of saying no to everything in the beginning or behave like a stopgate ourselves. So, what should we do to prepare ourselves as a security professionals within modern digital workplace? And this slide may excite you, and this may give you the right approach that we need to take. So, first of all, we need to embrace cloud native approach. We need to think about cloud first, and we need to look at our infrastructure differently. I mean, how the technologies are stacked up in the new environment. And we should be quick to learn and skill ourselves because that is the need of the hour. You need to learn, you need to embrace new technologies. So here on the slide, you can see that there's a significant change happening in the way applications are built. The traditional monolithic applications have been broken into multiple microservices. And now all these microservices communicate through APIs, which is another powerful development in itself. Because I would say APIs are the backbone of whole digital and the cloud world. And then there's a DevOps, which I often call, SDLC on wheels. It's like our old software development lifecycle, but we have added agility to it. So that's the application piece. And on the other hand, we see that the size of our workloads is getting smaller and smaller. We were running virtual machines in our data center, and of course, we do run them on cloud as well as a IaaS. But then we have containers, and most of you would have heard about Dockers and Kubernetes. So that is the container piece which is running, which is a more virtualized form of workload. And now we have a serverless functions like AWS Lambda or Azure functions. And so basically the serverless functions are even smaller unit and you just need to code and everything down under to run that code is managed by the cloud service provider. So the size of the workloads is reducing and the third piece is the new technologies and technologies may not be the right word here but the new ways of how we do our networks, how we manage our infrastructure through codes. Yes, coding, because that brings in automation. I will put in a word here though. For guys coming from an infrastructure security background, like most of them do, and even I'm from an infra background, we think like, oh, not again, we need to learn coding. But take my words, you do not need to. At least the way developers do coding. I work with Terraform files. I look at YAML files all the time. It is pretty easy. All you need to do is to understand them and if needed, modify a few parameters. There are tons of codes written and stored in GitHubs by vendors themselves, like Microsoft and other security practitioners. So you do not need to reinvent the wheel, but yes, do your due diligence or sanity check before you start using any codes from the GitHub. So get acquainted with infrastructure as a code and automations because that is the future. And then we have software defined networks. I'll do another video on that because it is important to understand the basic concept and understand why we have a security groups in the cloud world or why do identity becomes the new parameter. So I will have a separate video on software defined networks and then we have zero trust networks. So these are the few things that you as a security professional must start looking at to prepare yourself better for the security transformation journey. Now, this is Another interesting piece, and I absolutely love Microsoft for this. The way Microsoft is redefining cybersecurity space is amazing. Not only as a vendor selling Microsoft products, but also bringing in research and deep insights on how we should be doing our cybersecurity. And I must confess that I have become a big fan of Microsoft and especially Azure products and the services. So what we see here on the left side is the shared security responsibility model that we all know. We have been using it for compliance and understanding what we should be doing as a cloud customer, etc. But what we see on the right side is an opportunity. I see that as an opportunity, how Microsoft has brought this in, an opportunity to apply imagination and energy to develop a new approach to cybersecurity. When it says that how do we modernize our infrastructure and the application security? So, and how do we close the security gaps that we had in our traditional environments? So there were certain constraints that we had in our traditional environments that we should definitely look at closing them. Then about application security, I mean, how do we skill ourselves to become an integral part of DevOps? How do we secure applications in the form of microservices and APIs? So when we are migrating to the cloud, I think this is the right time to make that changes and become innovative and modernize our uh, cybersecurity, basically. Yeah. And the top piece talks about modern perimeter. Let's look at this in more detail on the next slide. So this is the last piece I want to talk about. And again, this picture is from Microsoft presentation. So when we talk about cloud, we often hear uh, perimeter is diminishing or fading, or we are losing control. Now we do not have any perimeter. But this is absolutely not true. Perimeter is very much there. And it is just that the intercept point has changed. So I'll talk about intercept point in some other video. But what we see here on the screen is the modern perimeter. So if you will see, it is just that there are a lot of our services which are now running outside of our traditional perimeter. And therefore, we have to redefine the perimeter and call it a modern perimeter. And as you will see here, we have a software services running like a SaaS, and then we do have workloads running on the cloud in the form of a IaaS and sometimes PaaS. Then we have apps running on employee mobile phones connecting to our network over internet. Then on the left side, you can see IoT devices and solutions. So all these technologies used by the business when they are clubbed together, whether they are inside our traditional parameter or outside our traditional parameter, they are all clubbed in together to define the modern perimeter, basically. Yeah. And as a security professionals, we should understand how this new perimeter and works and how to design controls accordingly. So that's it. That's it as a part of a primer. And I will leave you with this quote, which I had written some times back, and which goes like this: Cloud is here to stay, and it will challenge us as a security professionals. It will challenge how we secure our networks, how we protect our identities and data, how we do our application development. It will challenge us how we remain compliant in this dynamic world of cloud when regulations are becoming more and more strict. So this is a challenge that, yes, we have all agreed to take, and that's it. Just look for this space for more of my videos.